Says recording will start soon. Fantastic. So, Steve, very nice to meet you. Your
Very nice to
result
meet you.
your results were stellar. So, your pace of aging, which is the gold standard in measuring how fast or slow you age, above 1.0, that means that you're aging too fast. Below 1.0 means that you are aging slower than average, which of course is good. And your most recent test result was a 0.73, which means that at
Okay.
that rate, in 10 years, your body would have only aged 7.3 years. So I'd love for you to tell me more about your background before starting this longevity regimen with Novos. What did your lifestyle look like? And were you always generally health conscious?
Sure. Thank you. Um, okay, just as a background, I'm actually an optical scientist. I design optics and I work in the medical field with eye care predominantly. So I have always been interested in health and the science of health. But physically, I've always tried to maintain a good regime, going to gym every day, eating healthy. So I had a rather drastic sort of bachelorhood when I was first came to Singapore, and when I was also in Australia, where I would just eat perhaps 2 meals a day, primarily raw foods, so raw cabbage, raw carrots. I eat every single day. I have done all my life. Um, I have a reasonably disciplined workout regime. So every time I travel, which was very extensively in my job, because I work with a Japanese group and I travel all over the world in the area of optical science, and I always try and place with a gym so I can work out. In Singapore, I typically climb 30 floors at night time in the condominium, then go to gym and work out, particularly in resistance exercises. And then before COVID, I was also swimming in the mornings, doing laps. So I've pretty much always done that. Not You can't keep it up every single day, and I don't sort of get really really upset if I miss a day. But I try and do that at least 6 times a week, working out. And I have a beautiful Japanese wife, so we eat very healthily. She cooks basically very, very healthy food. So we eat basically very, very good raw vegetables, Japanese food, narakanase, things like that. And I only eat generally 2 meals a day. I've always done that. So I rarely eat lunch. So I just get up, have a small breakfast, go to work, and then I typically don't eat throughout the day, and then have a light dinner at night time.
Phenomenal.
So, mm.
So I'd love to hear more about your supplementation and how Novos has also fit into your larger protocol.
Typically in supplements, I've always taken the usual, like fish oil, some small amounts of multivitamins, vitamin E, and when I go to gym, I take creatine and HMB. But I wasn't sort of really taking hundreds and hundreds of supplements. I haven't done that. One of the things I noticed, and historically, I had been working, I was very, very interested in calcium-derived alpha-ketoglutarate, and I had been researching that with a couple of other companies or a couple of groups some time ago, and I was very, very interested in the remethylation of the DNA and basically mitigating inflammatory pathways. And when you guys came out with your formulation and it included AKG, I was very, very interested to try it. So the main feedback I have from the Novus, which I introduced into my supplementation program, was that actually and my wife feels exactly the same way, and the people I put her on seem to feel the same way, is that I definitely get an increase in energy in the afternoons, particularly in neural energy, which in my line of work, where I'm working with doing clinical studies for patients and then doing high-end automation to making contact lenses and other optical devices, I want to stay alert pretty much all day, and the days are long. I actually physically found that to sort of cut in quite abruptly, which was actually pleasantly surprising for me. So that's one of the reasons why I've been on Novus ever since. So yeah.
That's fantastic. So obviously you've touched upon the notable changes that you've seen from a cognition perspective, continuing to stay sharp throughout the day. Any other notable changes to your body, mind, appearance that have happened since beginning to take Novos?
Um, okay, going to the gym, one of the things that I used to notice as you get older, I found particularly, okay, if you don't work out every day, and for me particularly, if I were to get a flu or some sort of something like a head cold or something would put me out of gym for 3 or 4 days, I would drop body mass very rapidly. And so typically right now I would always hold around 85 kilos, but I would drop down to sort of 81 kilos quite quickly. Since I've been on Novus, I've noticed that does not occur. So I am noticing that throughout the gym, if I'm traveling and having to go to US or Europe and then come back and then miss a day, I'm maintaining my body weight and body fat ratio pretty much consistently. Which for me, as I said, as having gone to gym for a long while, and trying to balance it at my age now, where I don't try and kill myself or hurt myself too much, but still work out. That maintenance of muscle strength makes a big difference. So if you can go back in the gym after 3 days of not being there and sort of get back into your routine quite quickly, is not just physically good for me, but it's mentally good. Because a lot of people don't realize, or a lot of people don't place as much importance as they should on the physiological and intellectual benefits of working out. The combination of the both. That if you can stay healthy, obviously mentally it's a much more positive day if you can deal with stress that way, which is my personal way anyway. But for me, it's kind of like it makes a big difference if I can work out in the gym, keep my strength up, keep my routine up, and then that's part of my day. So if I slide back, it's frustrating. So that's one of the benefits I've noticed.
Phenomenal. So I'd love to change the line of questioning just a little bit and talk about your interpretation of longevity. So what does quality of life really look like to you? And in other words, Steve, what does longevity mean to you?
Okay, and this is going to be just very, very personal. Okay, so I can't speak for others, but for me personally, chronologically, I'm 68. I have been until I was 65. I was an executive officer of a public company in Japan. Chronologically, you have to step down in those positions after certain time frames, right? After certain ages, and that's the way of the world. Then those companies expect you to sort of start to go into retirement, and then you start to get off the treadmill and you go about your end of life job. And for those who really don't want to retire, who want to continue working, who want to keep their mind active, the number one currency that comes to play is your health. And for me, I have no desire whatsoever to retire. I want to keep doing my research, keep doing my work. The ability to still work long hours, the ability to stay alert, the ability to still stay interested in what I'm doing is absolutely paramount. So my interpretation of healthy aging or improved longevity is that it enables me to do that. I don't have expectations that I want to live to 150, and I'm not sure that us as humans yet are ready to see that many changes come into the world as rapidly as they're now coming in. But I certainly do not want to go through an end phase of my life where I'm suffering from high levels of inflammation or chronic illnesses that makes my life a misery. And I have been lucky, very lucky, touch wood, that so far I don't have anything wrong with me. I don't have anything that contributes to me slowing down. And I kind of put that to being lucky, one, and two, really looking after my health in terms of the right kind of supplementation, the right kind of exercise, the right kind of eating, the right kind of rest. And that to me is what I perceive as a good later section in your life. I always remember that David Bowie once made this comment that as you get older and older, your remaining time seems to speed up because as a percentage level, you're getting less and less percent left of your life, and you start to feel like, wow, how many years do I actually have left? And as I mentioned to you earlier, I actually started giving my chairman in Japan, who was 91 when I started him. I was giving him Novus to help him as he was aging, because he had chronic sarcopenia. He had an incredibly sharp mind, turned up at work every day as the pioneer of contact lenses in Japan, wanted to know everything that was going on in his company, but his body was letting him down. And he was suffering from classic sarcopenia. And we were trying to keep him active and healthy with this sort of supplementation. So I'd give him Novus and HMB, as I mentioned. And he thrived on it. He really liked it. And it did make him more active. He was able to move around more. His legs were working longer. And of course, he eventually succumbed to older age. But during that last time, he actually had a very healthy outcome. So I also attribute that to, his own long health, but the use of these sorts of supplements as well.
What an inspiring story. So Steve, on our website, novoslabs.com, we have a free longevity quiz that gives you a score for how well your lifestyle is optimized for longevity. I'd love to ask you the first question of that quiz. It has to do with your personal motivation for wanting to slow down aging. I'll read the question as well as the answer choices. So ready?
Sure.
Okay. So what would be most important to you if you slowed down your aging? Having more energy, living as long as possible, having a younger appearance, preventing or healing diseases, and having optimal cognition. I know
That's a multiple choice, and I need multiple answers to that. For me, the main of those, can I give two answers?
Yes, of course.
Of course. Okay, then I'm not particularly, again, the wonderful thing about getting chronologically older is I'm not so concerned about physical appearance other than what I will work in the gym. You really learn to accept, you can't carry so much muscle mass. You're not going to look as young as you used to, but you start to value the currency of health. That doesn't matter how much money you have in the world. You're not going to be able to take it with you, but the health to me and the lack of disease, along with cognitive abilities or the maintenance thereof, is the most important to me.
Phenomenal. Is there anything else you'd like to share about your longevity journey thus far?
Only in that it's something that like I said, I never thought about it as when I was younger as being something that was a deliberate act of going to gym or doing what I was doing or eating the way I was doing, eating the way I was, to become older or to become, have the ability to live longer or have a healthier lifestyle. It was never that. But what I have learned now, and thankfully I did do it, is that actually it was the right decision. And like I said, I'm no prude. I still like to go out to dinner and drink a glass of wine and share a really good meal with my wife, etc. But I don't. I believe that you have to have this balance so that you can live longer if you can, and you live more healthily if you can, without making your life miserable. And some of the early research I did, of course, when we're doing all the rat studies and all the other things, those are not indicative or typical of actual human behavior. So for my own personal journey, it's been about, well, I was lucky that I did that. Now I'm learning more about it because I became interested in this as I got older. And as it turns out, there are other like-minded individuals, and there are companies like yourself that are getting behind the same kind of philosophy. And personally, I think it's a really good time to embrace this. And I know for a fact, every time I talk to someone around myself in my company or my group of friends here in Singapore, and you start talking about anti-aging or healthy aging, it's a universal topic of people's interest, that they're like, what can I do? How can I do it? And I think it's not until you bring it up that most people really think about it deeply. But when they do, they suddenly realize and they suddenly understand that, this is something that they should be looking at. And I personally think it will just come down to, all you need is a little bit of discipline, and to get in a little bit of a good regime. It doesn't have to be perfect, but then using the right supplements along with that actually can go a long way.
Phenomenal. Steve, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
No worries. Good to talk to you, Hannah.
Yes, and I am